Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 209, Writing Book Reviews. This request comes via Vicky. Hello, Queen Vic, and a wonderful suggestion it is, and I'll tell you why. Writing book reviews, wow, that's enabling. It's enabling for your writing, it's enabling for your career, and also for your profile. Once more, when I was doing the preparation for this vlog, I read through the materials for how to write a book review. And can I say once more, they are completely diabolical. The book review, or even sadder, the book report, has truly dreadful scaffolding material. So I just want to park that. I have read and used that material, but a lot of it's pretty poor and isn't helpful for us as academics writing book reviews. But can I say, book reviews are brilliant. They are empowering for researchers, and they're empowering for books. Because one of the great challenges, if you write a book, and you'll be writing a book soon, but if you write a book, one of the great challenges is how that book finds an audience. So book reviews are great for the writers because audiences find the book. But what about the writers of the reviews themselves? Well, what the writing of reviews does is it increases your credibility, widens out your profile, but also importantly for PhD students and early career researchers, you've based your career so far on this very narrow area of research. You have to, that's what a PhD is. And as you move through your career, you need to broaden out the parameters of your expertise, show your wares, show the other areas in which you have expertise. And one of the great ways to do that is, oh my goodness, you're ahead of me, through the book review. So we're going to talk about how to write a book review as an academic, but I really did want to start with why you should consider writing book reviews. And the first thing is, book reviews are not one thing. They are incredibly diverse. In word length, they can vary from 50 words to 5,000 words. And there are different types of academic book reviews. Yes, there is the book review that focuses on the individual book. Here is a book, here's a review, thanks for playing, good. But also some lovely and interesting reviews have a series of books, so 2, 3, 4 books that are clustered together in a book review. They're fascinating to read and to write as well. And also, perhaps the most challenging but brilliant of reviews are the longer reviews, 1,000, 2,000 words, where you situate a new book into a field. Fantastic, and all of those are just a little bit different. So as an early career academic, as a PhD student, book reviews are truly brilliant to do. They build your name as a scholar, they widen out your expertise, and they create your capacity to be known for something else. So they are a great way to scaffold your writing career. And can I say, as an experienced writer, they're also incredibly important. The importance of the book review never goes away in your career. And even for me, they are a great way for me to explore different types of scholarship and different types of writing. So yes, you can publish a book review. They exist in journals, in the newsletters for professional organizations, incredibly important. You can also use them to enable your blog. So a lot of people, when they're starting to write blogs, what are you going to write about at the start? Well, book reviews are often a great way to kick off a blog until you gain confidence. That's great. And also, if you really want minimal effort to publish your book reviews, which of course I do, I use a site called Goodreads. One word, goodreads.com. Goodreads.com. So Goodreads is like the Facebook for book reviews, and I use it close to on a daily basis. So every book I read, and I read hundreds, every book I read, I have my computer, there's the book or my iPad, and I take notes, and then after I finish taking my notes and finish the book, I take 2 minutes more and I go to Goodreads and I write 5, 10, maybe 15 sentences to review the book. I then cut and paste that review and put it into my notes, by the way. So it's like a reflection on the entirety of the reading process. Now that's great for me. I believe very much in contributing to increasing people's reading, so that's the other reason I do it. But can I say, stunningly, a lot of scholars, not me, can I say, it would be the worst thing in the universe, but a lot of scholars have a Google alert on themselves. So they put their name in a Google alert, right? So if anybody mentions them on the internet, they magically get a notification. Can you think of anything worse than this? But still moving on. But the thing is, when you enact an online book review, like on Goodreads, for a particular scholar and a book, the Google alert will summon that notification. And of course, what happens is you meet people through these reviews. And I've met hundreds of people. Great collaborations, opportunities emerge through me writing 5, 10 sentences saying, oh, this is interesting in this way, and wow, this is a scholar really to watch. That person contacts me and it becomes a friendship. So don't underestimate those sorts of connections. And online reviews in particular have a lot of advantages, team. And I've written, all sorts of reviews in all sorts of organizations and platforms and interfaces. But these freewheeling online reviews do have advantages because it means you can learn how to write a review without the pressure of an editor. So if you're writing them for magazines, for example, the editor is very clear about the parameters of that review. So while you are learning, online reviews the way to go. You can also work on and lift up the caliber and the quality of the reviews that you write. So you're learning, and you're learning the genre, and so that's a great way to experiment. It also grants you the opportunity to reflect on your reading, which I think is very powerful. My note-taking is very detailed and granular in its engagement with books. But I always like that final step of taking a step back and going, right, well, why did it matter? And those online reviews help me do that. And of course, it connects you with other scholars. Now, I might have just about convinced you, I hope, about the value of doing the occasional book review, whether it's for journals, whether it's for professional organisations, or indeed your blog or online journals, like on Goodreads. So I'm going to use the final bit of this vlog today to talk about the how. So just some tips and tricks, but some strategies as well, because the literature's so poor, about, as an academic, how we can shape and frame the reviews that we create. All right, let's do this. 1, most important one probably, help a book find an audience. The first point I'd like to make here, noting all the diversity of the reviews that we've already talked about, is that you have to be clear about the type of review that you're being asked to write. Now that's incredibly important. If it is for a journal or a magazine or an association, ask how long, ask if there are any parameters for the review, because there often are. And to give you one example of the incredible diversity of reviews, very early on in my career, and I worked it out, I think it was 2 years after I completed my PhD, so very early on, I was asked to write what's called a review chapter, 15,000 words in length. And what this was it's the yearbook in critical and cultural studies, right? So it came from, I think, Cambridge University Press, and it was mainly for librarians, but also academics, and you would review the literature that had been published that year, yearbook, on a particular topic. And mine was Australian Communication and Media Studies, 15,000 words a year. And I think I did it for about 7 or 8 years. So in that case of the review chapter, I was required to find and read and sort all the material that had emerged in Australia Communication and Media Studies. And my job in these reviews was not to be hugely critical. And when I'm using the word critical, I mean it in terms of negativity. So my job was to be very, very clear on the content. And I described my project at the time, and I went back to my notes when I was preparing this vlog for you. I described my project at the time when I was doing this year's work in critical and cultural studies. It was to provide enough information about each individual book so that it could find an audience. So the task of my review was to make sure that that book could find an audience. So I referred to these at the time, and still do, as service reviews. We're doing a service for our intellectual community so that if that person is interested in that, they know to read this particular book. Thanks. Now, for journals as well, many of these principles do apply. Explain the content of the book in sufficient detail so that an audience can find it. And I rarely write negative reviews outside of Goodreads. I've written a few when a book is just dreadful, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But my greatest critique of my particular fields at the moment is the complete lack of innovation, right? So restating stuff that frankly was disproven and critiqued 25 years ago. So it's like, really? We're going there again? Really? So some of my reviews have that tone. And I do lose patience these days because I'm so incredibly old. I do lose patience these days with sort of evangelical commitments to particular scholars that existed a long time ago and their ideas have been disproven. So that gets me a bit aggro, a bit stroppy, Tara, but mostly the point is give the book a fair go, right? And two, book reviews need a big crunchy opening. Now this is where the literature on book reviews was just pointless, okay, just absolutely unbelievable, because so many, I'm talking about 15, 20 reviews stated, oh right, well a book review has to commence with a summary. Could you think of anything worse? So let's just summarize this book. That's great. Yeah, no. If it's a short review, then make sure it's got that really punchy sentence. So start with something big, boof. Start with a great sentence. If it's a longer review, starting with a story or something that might be about you, might be about the field, ease in, attract your readership to your review. So do something big, do something flashy, do something funny. But the point is you're drawing the readers into your review. Okay, 3. Summaries are important, but keep them tight. Yes, you are going to have to show what's in this book. You are. And I refer you to the point I've made earlier. The point of the summary is to make sure that your review points an audience to it. So let the people that are really interested in this find it. So you're going to have to give them enough content so they know it's of interest to them. Yeah? But also the best summaries put that book into the context of wider scholarship. So present the content, yes, but also present why the content is meaningful. So why it's meaningful for this discipline, whether it's history or chemistry, at this particular time. Boom. 4, move from the what of the book to the why of the book as quickly as possible. The what, the content of the book, that's fine. Service reviews, that's fine. But the why is actually more important. The why this book was written and why this book matters right now. 5, feel free to use quotations, whatever the discipline. Okay, now I know our crew in the sciences, you say, oh look, I'm post quotations. Don't use quotations. Post quotations. And look, okay, that's cool. I get that, paraphrasing, that's cool, knock yourself out. But that rule doesn't apply in book reviews. Okay, so whatever discipline you're talking about, use quotations, and I'll tell you why. Because it's important that the reader receives a flavour of the tone. Because what you're also talking about is how it is written. So the calibre, the quality of the prose and the argument, how it is written. So show the reader how it is written and then interpret that modality. Remember, it's all about readability. Who is the reader? And therefore you need to show the readability to make that case. 6, opinions do matter. Look, we live in a time where opinions and subjectivity is just everywhere. If I've got an opinion on anything in particular, let me just overshare that with you now. You know, randoms have just cooked a meal, they'll take a picture of it, they'll talk about the meal. Like, opinions, we've got plenty of opinions at the moment. But opinions are important when we're framing and conveying book reviews, because you learn to present a view. You learn to present a subjectivity that is meaningful and evidentially based. So this is an incredibly important intellectual function for you to develop, because what book reviews give you is practice in presenting your subjectivity, presenting your opinion, but in a scholarly way. You are a scholar, you are an academic. You have an opinion, but it's a different sort of opinion to some random on Twitter. It is an opinion configured through evidence and interpretation. So what book reviews do is they make you comfortable in the development of your academic subjectivity. Crucial. 7, experiment with new modes of expression. Book reviews, because they're pretty short and they often have a pretty straightforward paragraph structure, allow experimentation in other ways. Now, to give you an example, I love comedic writing. Comedic writing is incredibly difficult. Comedic writing is the toughest genre for academics out there, particularly if you are a woman, because obviously, you know, female academics, we're not funny. We're not funny people, we are angry people. If you're a female academic, you're angry a lot of the time. So that there's no real space for us to be funny, because we're not funny people, we are angry people all the time. But if you would like to develop alternative ways of expressing yourself and experimenting with how you write, then the book review is a good, safe, interesting zone to start those experimentations with form as much as content. But saying that, 8, have an outline before you start. Book reviews are very disciplined modes of writing. They are short, and even if they are those longer review essays of 5,000 words, they still are pretty tight. They are pretty well organised. So make sure before you start you've got 3 to 5 key points that you're going to explore here, and write those points down before you start. Make sure they're also ordered in a logical or rational fashion, because the worst book reviews, so the thing that goes wrong in book reviews is you're writing a book review and you lose the book on the way through. Happened to me a few times. So the focus has to be always on the book. Yes, the book can be used as a foundation for a wider critique, absolutely. And look, my favourite mode of book reviews at the moment is, you know, here is this book, this is what this book does, and let me explain why this book is a proxy for the dire state of international humanities scholarship. That's a recurrent trope in my life at this point. But the most important thing, team, is don't let the review get away from you. The book is the centre, right? You can riff off it, but if I use that metaphor, the melody of your book review is its content, is the book itself. And yes, you can work off that, but make sure that the melody is strong. 9, how negative can you go? What I'd say to you, and I hope this is useful advice in the long term, writing a book is incredibly difficult. And therefore, it is important to acknowledge that difficulty and understand the book on its own terms first. So, what was this book trying to achieve? So, there is the book, this was the project of the book, and state what that book was trying to achieve on its own terms, right? And that's important before you then insert it into the discipline or the field. As I said, I very rarely write negative reviews, because I know, my 19th book is about to be published. I know how tough writing books, how tough that is. And also I know about the great privilege of being able to read a book, because whenever I read a book, I take a breath and I thank the author mentally. And I do that because that person has sacrificed 5 years plus of their life writing that book. Time away from their family, away from their friends, isolated, doing the planet a service by writing a book. Now that's all true, so therefore respectfulness in terms of the books project is important. Obviously as I've got older, I've got stroppier, I've got so much angrier. And particularly I get angry. My current anger moment is when senior academics in particular are just writing the same old stuff that they've been doing for the last 20 years and quoting the same old people, their mates, so they're just endlessly quoting their mates, just keeping it going in this way, and they're not reading new journals, they're not reading new scholars, and they're not infusing the field with innovation. So they're just citing their mates. That stuff makes me crazy. But always make sure that we remember at the start, the point of a review is that that book finds its audience. I would also say though, if it is a terrible book, and there are a few absolute shockers, then it is important to state that, because you don't want people spending their money buying a book that is that diabolical. But I think the scholarly responsibility is the most important there. Here is a book, if it's got an audience, no matter how small, connect them up, but also if it's diabolical, call a spade a shovel. 10. Write a screamer of an ending. The first sentence matters a lot in reviews, and the screaming last sentence or final paragraph really matters as well. So what you've got to do is make that final paragraph Ben-Hur significant, Ben-Hur big, and arc outside of the book to make that big final comment. And it might be an issue about how the topic, the content, the discipline is being framed, the role of that discipline, the role of this research area on the planet right now, that's important. And we need to, if you can in that final paragraph, connect up the content with the context. That's a great conclusion. So as you can see, book reviews are truly brilliant. They are brilliant for you as a PhD student and an early career researcher because they lift your profile. But they also hold an organic intellectual function, sharing, promoting, enabling the learning and the reading of others. And if I could change just one thing on planet Earth today, it would be that I increase the reading of our citizens. There's never been a more important time to read than now, but there's also never been more to read than now. So a book review allows us to sort and sift and organise reading material so that citizens can find what they need today. Thank you, Vicky, as always. You are a wonder. I wish you love, light and peace. Tea out.